Welcome to the Why Factor, a chance to work out why we do what we do. BBC World Service podcasts are supported by advertising.
This is a BBC podcast. You can get all our podcasts and our terms of use at bbcworldservice.com/podcasts.
BBC World Service, welcome to the Why Factor. Today, sticky songs. In German, they're called Ohrwurm, earworms, those snippets of music that seem to crawl into your brain and lodge there, playing over and over again. Over and over and over and over and over and over. Ma belle, Sunday monkey vont très bien ensemble, très bien ensemble.
This is Six Music. Music.
Keep your earworms coming in. 64046, sean.sixmusic@bbc.co.uk. Tweet us on BBC Six Breakfast. My name's Sean Keaveney and I do a breakfast programme on BBC Radio 6 Music. We had 3 or 4 emails from people saying, I'm walking up with this song in my head, I can't get it out of my mind. And it started happening more and more regularly to the point where we sort of labelled it Earworms. And in fact, ever since then, we've kind of semi-dedicated the first hour. It's like kind of a rolling collection of people's earworms. A couple of years ago, I started cycling in to work. And the particular route that I go, you go one road and it has 2 doctor bays for car parking.
Oh, I know what you're going to do now. Yeah.
Doctor, the Thompson twins. Like every morning for about a month, that was in, at least for a couple of hours.
There's this fascinating phenomenon called involuntary memory.
Dr. Vicky Williamson, visiting professor of performance science at Hochschule Luzern in Switzerland.
So this is when something in the environment that you don't necessarily need to be paying any attention to sets off what I like to think of as a domino effect. We're not fully aware of the processing of our environment at every one moment. If we did, the brain would be completely overloaded. It's trained to focus on what we need at that moment to understand what's going on, but it's taking in a lot more information from all the senses, and each and every one of those senses could be playing together to trigger these involuntary memories in the mind. Now, it's a factor of the way we learn that the mind makes links between different things. That's how we set up predictions, that's how we learn about our environment. And one of the consequences of this, we think in the subconscious mind, is that the brain makes links with everything that you see all the time. You're just not necessarily aware of the process. And what happens when a sticky tune comes to mind is that something you've seen in the environment has set off a line of dominoes, a line of associations in your mind, and somewhere down that line, a tune has been activated. The tune has been brought into your conscious mind, and it's stuck there. There have been now 2 or 3 large-scale international surveys, one conducted in London and one in Finland and one in the US. And the numbers are pretty consistent that at least 90% of the population report experiencing a sticky tune at least once a week. It's very prevalent, it's ubiquitous, and that's why we find it so interesting as a phenomenon to look at not only sticky tunes, but other types of sticky thoughts, sticky cognitions in the mind. Because these tunes are so frequent and prevalent across people, we can look across different populations and we can also follow people across time. So they're a really interesting tool for getting at one of the features of our minds. You only need 2 musical features to predict with 80% accuracy whether a tune will become sticky. and that is the length of the notes and the jumps between the notes. So essentially, if you have a tune with longer notes and with smaller jumps, you're more likely to be making a sticky tune than a non-sticky tune.
This from the Vietnamese singer Tran Quang Hai seems like a perfect candidate for earworm status.
The interesting thing about those two features of music, for me, is that those would naturally make a piece of music easier to sing. So there may simply be a link there between what we enjoy singing, what we can sing very easily, and what later gets stuck in our minds.
Music is universal. It's embedded in cultures all over the planet, and it seems that wherever you have music, these earworms thrive.
My name's Fifi Haroon, and I sang with Junoon, one of Pakistan's best-known rock bands, and have got many platinum-selling albums. There's this really popular song from Bollywood right now called Baby Doll, and everybody's singing it. I mean, wherever you go, just everybody's going on singing it, and you hear it everywhere. You hear it on the radio, you see it on YouTube, and yes, it gets a bit sort of stuck in your mind.
There's a difference between being popular and sticking in your mind, though.
There is a difference, yeah, but Bollywood seems to combine both the sort of sticking in your mind and what's popular very effectively, because I think they realize that that's one of the ways that they can do it. So it's very difficult for me to differentiate and say, that's sticking in my mind because I hear it a lot, or that's sticking in my mind because it's particularly catchy. I think it's a combination of both, probably. The Bollywood songs are sort of very much built along that one or two lines that, as you said, you know, keep getting stuck in your mind because they're easy to sing and easy to repeat and easy to recall. And they're usually quite cheeky as well.
The phrase earworm is as unpleasant as the thing itself, but perhaps it's not entirely a bad thing. Perhaps there's a reason these tunes get stuck in our minds.
This is Daniel Levitin. I'm the James McGill Professor of Psychology and Neuroscience at McGill University. If we think back to our history as a species, we've been on the planet for a long time, 50 or 60,000 years, and we've only had written language for a very short amount of time, about 5,000 years. So the available evidence is that songs were the way that we kept track of information for many, many tens of thousands of years. And the fact that songs could stick in the head made them a good vehicle for transmitting information from one person to another and one generation to another. So the answer is the reason they stick in the head is because they were evolutionarily selected to do so. Or our brains were evolutionarily selected to be able to do so.
So you'd have a song that would teach you how to hunt or sow seeds or something?
Yeah, or a song about courtship, or about don't drink out of that well over the hill because my uncle did and the neighboring tribe killed him.
The sticky song may seem a trivial thing, but even just the studying of it is a revolution in psychology. In the past, researchers have looked at how the mind and the brain react to something, a stimulus or a goal. But for the most part, our mind operates on a kind of autopilot, and sticky songs offer the chance to learn more about that idling mind.
There has been a general move towards investigating phenomena that are not goal-focused or target-oriented. So what does our mind do if it just roams freely, if we don't engage it with a task?
Professor Daniel Merlinsiefen is director of the Master's Course on Music, Mind and Brain at Goldsmiths College in London.
Earworms are a musical form of these unwanted thoughts, so they're unbidden by definition. They come and they repeat, and sometimes they're difficult to get rid of. And the question is, why does the mind do that? How does it do it? And why does it happen in certain people more than in others? What actually does the mind do with all this spare time and capacity when we're not engaging it with a targeted exercise? if we understand the mechanisms, why it happens, in which situations and to whom, we might be able to put people in a position to control their unwanted thoughts better, not just with earworms, but with other forms of unwanted thoughts as well. So this is like the broader implication or focus, that you might be able to understand better what's going on in your mind.
Are you suggesting that in a therapeutic context?
So this project on earworms is part of a larger paradigm that has made a considerable shift in psychological science over the last years. Earworms are kind of the musical part of this paradigm. Certain types of people have problems with that, as you might have in OCD, depression, schizophrenia. And the question is, to what degree can you manipulate the brain or the mind to stay within the boundaries it's supposed to stay?
Daniel Levitin from Montreal's McGill University.
In studies by psychologists, they often track not just musical stickiness, but verbal stickiness, phrases, pieces of poetry or newscasts or movie lines. And what they find is that in maybe 5 to 10% of the time when people report that something stuck in their head, it's not musical. It might just be, as you say, a poem or some scrap of speech they heard. I think the thing about music is that the mutually reinforcing cues of rhythm and rhyme and accent structure, the harmonic structure of the music itself, make it a more likely candidate for something that can be easily remembered and recalled. Paul McCartney has said in interviews that he intentionally didn't want to learn to write down music. He doesn't know how to read or write music. And he figures that if a song comes to him and he can't remember it, if it doesn't get stuck in his head, then it's probably not a very good melody, and so he won't worry about it. He only writes the ones that get stuck.
You're usually carrying one or another. I've had Elbows My Sad Captains in my head for about a week. I mean, I guess I've been listening to it a little bit, but why it sticks and repeats, I have no idea.
How long's the loop? How long before it repeats?
What, the actual little piece of music?
The one in your head?
I think the tape is about 8 seconds long, so it's quite maddening.
What is it?
You want me to sing it? Oh, God. Thanks, Mike. What is it? It is the bit of the song. It's quite a new song. You might not know it, but you will do. It goes, another sunrise with my sad captains, where I choose to lose my mind. And it's just that again, and again, and again. And it's inescapable.
And you've had this for a week?
Yeah, I have. Good God.
Another sunrise with my sad captains. Another sunrise with my sad captains.
There's a very small minority of people who report that the song has become so annoying or so stuck that it interferes with their ability to work or to even sleep at night. And in those cases, there's medication that can help release it. One medication is the anti-anxiety family of medications, the benzodiazepines, including Valium. And then there's medicine that people with obsessive-compulsive disorder take. And the anti-OCD medication can help relax the neural circuits that are causing the sticky song to play over and over and again.
You may not have control of the thought while it's in your head, but what you have control over is which thoughts are going to be in your head.
This is Ira Hyman, Professor of Psychology at Western Washington University in the USA. He says that you can't avoid sticky songs and sticky thoughts, but you can try to control them.
I'm not able to necessarily stop the occurrence of intrusive thoughts. I have songs stuck in my head pretty regularly these days. But what I'm learning to do more these days is control what's going to be my intrusive thought. So I ride my bicycle to and from my job every day at the university. And so before I get on my bicycle on my way home, I tend to play a piece of music that I won't mind having playing in my head on the ride home. I tend to be working on an important task before I get on my bike so that I continue to have that return to awareness on my way home, and oftentimes get some work done, in my head at least, that I can then, when I get home, focus on that. I think most of us have thoughts that come back when we're driving our cars, right? If we're driving someplace. So, are those productive thoughts that we're having? Or have we set ourselves up to have productive intrusive thoughts or non-productive intrusive thoughts? I'm getting to the point where I'm realizing that I don't have control over my conscious awareness, so I may as well, set up my environment to give me thoughts that are useful or are pleasant at least.
Of course, with great knowledge comes great responsibility.
It can get mean and nasty in our research lab sometimes. We play evil games with one another, knowing songs that each other doesn't like. We'll, whistle, and hum bits of it as we go past each other.
So have you managed to infect people with an earworm they hate?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's part of what we do. And it turns out not to matter whether you like the song or not. We can get it stuck in your head as long as you know the song. So that we've used some music that you can tell they don't like. I mean, just on their ratings. And not only that, when our researchers play the music, the glares they get from the students who are the participants in the research project clearly indicate that they're not happy with them at that moment. The best thing is to make sure they're actually engaged in some other task. So walking past somebody while they're working at their computer screen, humming that piece of music in the background that they don't like, or having it on your cell phone as you're walking past, as your ringtone even, might be enough to get that thing started in their head. And they may not even know that you did it to them if you were sneaky enough about it.
This is Six Music. Six Music.
When people become parents, they get a whole new tranche then, don't they? So you've got, we get a lot of reports of Peppa Pig, obviously, sort of theme tunes of various popular children's television programmes. But the biggest ones of recent times, and one in particular, was I Saw a Mouse. Where? There on the stairs. Where on the stairs? That one, that comes in quite a lot now. I think the kids are being infected at nursery. It's a bit like when you've got young kids and they bring stuff back for like viruses. They also bring earworms, and it's really cute, isn't it? While your 3-year-old's singing it and clapping along, and then you walk off to work singing "Mouse in Amsterdam" or whatever it is.
Yeah, for me it was "The Wheels on the Bus Go Round and Round."
That's another. Thanks very much again. Thanks, Mike. Thanks for leaving me with that one.
The wheels on the bus go round and round. Round and round, round and round. The wheels on the bus go round and round all day long.
There are dozens of different podcasts now available from the BBC, including news, documentaries, science, business, arts and sport. For details of them all, go to bbcworldservice.com/podcasts.